1959, classified as a second felony offender. Offenses: forcible rape, count 2, habitual offender, aggravated crime against nature, count 4. Sentencing dates: November 6, 2002, sentenced to a total of 37 years. Parole date: August 1st, 2021. Good time, not eligible. Full term, May 26, 2037. Is this information correct, sir?
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Kelsey?
How old are you, Mr. Carter?
I'm 62,
How long have you been incarcerated?
21 years.
37-year sentence, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a GED or high school diploma?
Yes, sir. I received it here.
Which one? GED, okay.
GED.
And it's been a little while since you had a disciplinary write-up, right? How long has it been?
10 years, I believe.
Okay. What do you currently do there at the facility?
I do most of the construction and carpentry work for the compound.
And tell me, what kind of classes have you taken?
I've taken the pre-release and I'm in the sex offender class.
Which phase?
I just finished phase 1.
And you've been in jail for 21 years. Why did it take so long to get into sex offender treatment?
I was in it a couple of times before, but my work, the work that I do here, it interrupted and I dropped out on it. It's all my fault that I didn't finish it. I should have finished it. But now that I've been given this chance, I wasn't thinking about leaving right away. I thought I was going to be here until I was 78 years old. And once I got this chance, I went right back and took these classes.
Wouldn't you think you would have needed that regardless if you were going to be getting out or not, to help yourself? Isn't that all the whole purpose of it?
Yes, sir, I sure do. I still think I need it when I get out because just to keep my mind straight.
And again, these terrible crimes, was this, were you on drugs or alcohol at the time?
No, sir.
So what caused that then?
It was just the heat of the night. When I came in that night, it was just something that happened. I let my desire think for me instead of my brains. And if I could go back and do it again, it would have never happened in the first place. That's not Frank Carter. That was the old Frank Carter. That's not the Frank Carter now. Frank Carter's rehabilitated himself in his work. I work every day almost by myself. I'm always thinking about, man, what did I do? What did I do? The remorse I have for this is, if I could tell the victim or Nicole how I feel and how wrong I did her, I would. I've hurt not only her and her family, I hurt my family, my sisters, my daughters, my grandkids. I've taken all those years away from them. And I can't replace that. But if given the chance, I would like to get out there and help them in a way that the father and grandfather is supposed to do. And I'd like Nicole to understand that it's something that should have never happened. I regret it ever since the day it happened. I've regretted it the whole time I've been locked up. It's always on my mind. And I know it's something that'll never, ever happen again. Because if y'all give me this chance, I'm going to be out and I will stay in classes when I'm out. I'll work all day long and go to class at night if I have to. It's something that I need to do to keep my peace of mind.
Okay. Have you taken any type of victim awareness?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay. Warden, you have any input for us?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kelsey. Frank he said it right. He does a lot of work around here on the compound for maintenance and stuff. Helps us out with our maintenance and things like that. Stays out of trouble. So he does a good job as an offender inside the facility. I, can't speak to what he did before or what he will do afterwards, but inside the facility he does fine. I would like to wish he would have taken some programming and sex offender treatment stuff, but he does a decent job inside the facility. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll hear from Miss Natasha.
Good morning.
Oh,
Basically, I'm just here. If he's able to get out, he will have. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
He will have a lot of support. He has 3 daughters. Unfortunately, 3 of them couldn't be here because of work. They short staffed, but they also here for support. He doesn't know his grandkids, but they keep in touch over the phone. Some of them he's never met, but they also ready for him to get out and build a relationship. His sister is his nephew. He just has so much support, and we are all ready for him just to be out and come home.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Natasha. Now we'll hear from Miss Raven.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, just basically, what my mom did say, a lot of us, we've only met him one time. We were only able to meet him one time before you guys changed the rules about visiting and age limits, but I would give anything to be able to establish that relationship with him, because hearing him over the phone is just not enough for some of us, and it's not enough for me. And I would like to be able to support him in any way, whether it's housing or car situation. We just want to support him so that we can establish that bond that none of us got to get from him. And we all just want it, and we all talk about being able to meet him one day, and hopefully that day comes soon, because we're all ready for it.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Raven. All right. Now we'll hear from Mr. Randy Meyer.
Randy Meyer, Assistant DA Jefferson Parish, and we have a very strong opposition to Mr. Carter's request. Looking at his past record, in 1993, he was arrested for molestation of a juvenile and pled guilty to felony contributing to the delinquency of juveniles. Just a few years later, in 2000, he was arrested for the instance offense, convicted of forcible rape and aggravated crime against nature. The victim being a 14-year-old girl that was the friend of his girlfriend's daughter. He has not taken sex offender treatment, only the first phase. He has not completed that. He has not taken any victim awareness. The DOC progress report, I believe, shows he's only taken pre-release 1 and 2. So his programming, in my opinion, is very, very poor. For those reasons, we are strongly opposed to his request.
All right. Thank you. All right. We'll hear from Mr. Carter now. Would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir. If given
Go
this
ahead.
chance, I will take any and every class that I need to take and that I want to take and complete. And I would strongly want to emphasize how apologetic I am towards Nicole. I want her to understand that the pain and the sorrow that I've been living with has taken my soul. It's hurting me that bad. And I like to have a chance to be able to get my soul back. And with y'all's help, it'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. And I appreciate y'all giving me this chance for this parole hearing. And I want to thank each and every one of you.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Now panel will vote. I'll vote first. Mr. Franklin, Mr. Carter, you're it sounds like you're doing some good work in there. You obviously you're very skilled. You're doing a lot of work around the facility. You're doing a lot of good things. I'll be pretty consistent. I need you to see you take the whole sex offender treatment, all phases, before I would be ready to release you. You're doing right. You've done well. Your disciplinary has been very good. I mean, you're doing all the right things. But I'm gonna have to deny your parole until you complete the sex offender treatment. You need to complete that. I'd like to see you take victim awareness. And again, I know you're a good worker. I'd like to see you take more classes, more courses and classes that'll self-help that improve you, but specifically victim awareness and complete the sex offender treatment. So because of the opposition expressed here today and because you need classes, I'm going to vote to deny your parole.
Mr. Carter, I do agree. I think it's very important. I understand why you didn't finish the sex offender treatment program based on your sentence and your job and all that, but to us, that's critical prior to release. So my vote today is to deny. I encourage you to enroll in and complete the sex offender treatment, the victim awareness program. You'll have the opportunity to reapply once you've completed those classes. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Wise.
Mr. Carter, you are a blessed man to have your daughters that kind of support. So it's important to us that when you get out, you're able to stay out, and just really be able to do well. So my vote is to deny as well for the reasons already been stated on the record. Best wishes to you, sir.
All right, 3 votes to deny. Today your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
What a complete cockroach. It's just, we're going to go over the facts. Thank you, Richard, for providing it with this court document, but it makes me sick. His final speech, you unpack what he says. He says, the pain and sorrow took away my soul. I want my soul back. That's what he says in his final statement. And if he can't see the irony in even using those words to describe what happened to him, his soul, I mean, those are the words that we hear victims, survivors say when they describe the outcome of what happened. They say things like they've lost their soul, they lost their control, they lost their youth, they lost that skip in their step, and he has the audacity to say that. It's just nuts. It opens the window into his emptiness there. I doubt there's a soul. And then I only get more infuriated to find out that he had a conviction, as Randy Meyer pointed out. Thank you, Randy, for being there. In in 1997, molestation of a juvenile. Keep in mind, his next offense, when he came home and just lust took over, he couldn't help himself when he threw himself on his daughter's friend. That happened in 2002. So I don't know. We don't know if he served time for his 1997 offense. But if he did, as soon as he got out, he did it again. And you think this man should ever be free? Are you kidding me? Man, he's a roach. He was found guilty by a jury too. The judge sentenced him for 15 years for the sexual assault and 17 years for for a total of 37 years. I don't know why they didn't throw even more of the book at him and give him just life. I mean, he went to trial with, I don't know, I don't think those were the maximums. But the victim was born on April 28th, 1986, and her mother moved to Grand Isle, Louisiana. ND became best friends with KB, a girl that she met at school. Defendant Franklin was KB's mother's boyfriend, who lived in the family's home. When KB's father, who was also resided at the family's home, was working out of the country, the defendant slept in KB's mother's room. When KB's father was in town, defendant slept in a small room on the first floor. At times, the victims went on outings with KB, her mother, and the defendant. ND testified that she believed the defendant was a nice person and she trusted him. I mean, this is more than, they're like really best friends. She's staying in the home. ND testified that in May 2000, she spent the night at KB's house. The two girls stayed up late watching a movie and talking until they went to sleep in the upper bunk of the bunk beds in KB's room. During the night, ND remembered waking up to the defendant rubbing her leg. He then said, "Let's go downstairs. We're just going to fool around." Even though ND told the defendant to leave her alone, he continued rubbing her leg, even put his finger into her. ND testified that she was frightened of the defendant and she told him to leave. The defendant picked her up and sat her down on the floor next to the bed. ND told him she was going to get back into bed. Defendant said, "No, you're not." He then carried her downstairs to his room and placed her on his bed. ND testified that she tried to scream, but she was too frightened and nothing came out. ND stated that the defendant asked her if she wanted to smoke a joint. She refused, but the defendant lit up the joint and offered it to her. She took it and then gave it back to him. The defendant then pushed her shoulders back until she was lying on the bed and pinned both of her wrists behind her back with one hand. The defendant tried to kiss her lips, but she turned her head to prevent it. He pushed her t-shirt aside with his free hand and rubbed his body against hers. He also pushed her boxers down and touched her with his mouth and tongue. He then penetrated her. She struggled to free herself and asked him to stop. The defendant stopped, apologizing 2 or 3 times, and let her go. He stopped, apologized 2 or 3 times, and let her go. She ran upstairs crying and got back into bed with KB. You just can't make this stuff up. You think about her parents. You send your daughter to your best friend's house. You trust it, and then you find out that the father goes and pulls her out of bed. It's just there's no place in human society for monsters like this. And the idea that even after a trial, a judge doesn't give him life is quite disturbing to me. I can go over the statutes maybe of what the maximums are, but I cannot believe that after a trial that those were the maximum sentences. I just don't believe that. ND did not tell KB what happened that night because she was scared of the defendant. In the morning, ND got up early, collected her things, and went home because she's scared and she wanted to forget what happened. She called KB later that day, and KB asked what was wrong. ND told her that the defendant had sexually assaulted her. ND reported the incident to the Grand Isle police 2 weeks later. KB testified that the defendant was her mother's boyfriend and that he stayed at her family's house for extended periods of time when her father's work called him out of town. She stated that ND spent the night at her house on May 12, 2000. They went to sleep in her bedroom about midnight or 1 a.m. KB was awakened by the sound of the defendant talking to ND. She heard the defendant tell ND to go downstairs with him. KB testified that she did not say or do anything at the time because she was scared of her own father. Defendant took ND out of the bedroom and ND later returned crying. KB testified that ND went home in the morning and acted like nothing was wrong. ND telephoned her later that day, however, and KB, the defendant, had done that to her. After hearing the testimony and evidence, the jury unanimously found that the defendant was guilty of charged and aggravated crime against nature. In the assignment of error, the defendant contends that the evidence was insufficient to support conviction of forcible sexual assault and aggravated crime against nature. He points out that ND was the state's only eyewitness and there was no physical evidence to corroborate her testimony. He calls ND's account implausible and unreliable in several respects. This is what his appeal states. Then they go through why all of the ideas of the appeal and why the victim's testimony is basically enough to convict him. Right here, the victim's testimony is also sufficient to prove force of the element. It's and remember, this was his second time in just like 5 years, and this is the second time, I guess, that he was caught. Right? It's and then you hear his daughters, playing for him and all those things, and I guess it's very hard to know the relationship between children and parents, right? But to think about the effect it had on them and their lives in school and being known as the daughters of that parent. I'll put this link in the description. I'm just like scrolling through it to see if there's anything notable to call out. He did this. Finally, the defendant argues that the descriptions given by ND and KB were implausible. He points out that KB's parents were sleeping in the bedroom next to hers, and that a babysitter was also sleeping there that night. It's like he does this in a full house. It's just, what is going on in this house that he asserts that even the smallest noise would have awakened someone. KB, who was in the room when the defendant allegedly carried off ND, was awakened. She testified that she did not attempt to assist ND because she was scared. ND testified that she was too scared to cry out for help. She opened her mouth and nothing would come out. The defendant committed the acts in his room, which was on the first floor of the house. The rest of the family who were asleep upstairs bedrooms would not necessarily have been able to hear noises in the defendant's room on the first floor. So defendant now argues that the prosecution questions to KB regarding what she was scared of implied that the defendant had done something to KB to cause her to fear him. As such, the defendant asserts the question constitutes inadmissible other crime evidence. Defendant complains that the trial court erred in failing to grant proper remedy, mistrial admonishment. What's interesting is if you compare these two hearings, the one that we just did and it's let's see, they're back-to-back hearings. One is 14 years old, and they get one gets 40 years, one gets 37 years, but one takes a plea deal and the other goes to trial. And I don't understand how you go to trial and not get the book thrown at you. It just upsets me. It really does. So just for the record, I pulled up the legislation. So this is what he's convicted of. November 5th, he was tried by a 12-person jury on forcible sexual assault and aggravated crime against nature. And they returned the verdict of guilty of both. So remember, he goes to trial. The survivor, in this case, takes the stand, right? They go through all of that trauma. He calls her a liar and all that stuff. And the legislation, unless the legislation changed, because this took place in 2000, the trial took place in 2001, But for forcible sexual assault, which is what he was found guilty of, it means that the judge could have sentenced him to, gosh, where is it now? Oh, hold on. It was right in front of me the whole time. So suspension sentence not less than 5 years, no more than 40. So I love that they say not less than 5. Like you can actually give a 5-year sentence, but not more than 40. Because doing that to someone, yeah, you shouldn't get 50 years for it. You should just get 40 years for it. And so the judge could have given him a 40-year sentence, but let's see, the judge gave for that, the judge gave 37 years. So, okay, so basically nearly did give the maximum. Although he's eligible for parole after 2, which, I don't know, without benefit of parole after 2, for 2 years. Oh, no, yeah. He's still eligible, was eligible for parole after just 2 years, which is madness. Which really is madness. I mean, to do that to a child and then have to have them show up for a parole hearing every 2 years is this insane. And so that was 37 years. That was it. So then the other charge, I guess it just ran concurrent, because the other charge could have gotten him on, this is crime against nature. The maximum for crime against nature defined in here would have been not more than 5 years, or but no, whoever that's for A. If you're under the age of 18, then it would be for not less than 15 years. So it could have gotten another 15-year sentence for that one. So that's what the judge did. The judge did not throw the book at him. He was found guilty of both. The judge gave 37 years instead of the maximum of 40, and then he was sentenced to 15 years, which was the maximum for crime against nature. But look, it was to run concurrent. Trial judge ordered the sentence to be served concurrent. And why you would give him any benefit or any leniency? This is his second time being convicted of such a crime. You just lock him up and throw away the key, frankly. It's you could have given him the maximum. He went to trial. He called the victim a liar, and then he lets these run concurrent. I don't understand that. And when the DAs, they hand out these like, oh, their plea deal here, plea deal there, and then when they go to trial, the judge says, what's the big deal? You'll, might as well go to trial, right? Anyways, thank you, Richard, for the information, and with that, I'll let you go.